Good morning. This is the soul of your money. I am JB Bryan, the Chief Investment Officer and President of JB Bryan Financial Group, a registered investment advisory firm and the home of AfroEconomics. And today it's about the soul of your money, the fifth principle of AfroEconomics, which I use didnt. Didnt is the adinkra symbol. Yes, and it represents including God, that nothing is possible without God, that we have to realize that our financial lives can be enhanced by including God in our financial decisions. And that brought about the commitment to the fifth principle of AfroEconomics, so that in the book, you will see the fifth principle in there, and it refers to Bible verses that are in alignment to help us, to encourage us to continue to move forward. So this is a verse that I would like to use as just our initial meditation as we move into this discussion about comparing. And I think that a lot of the comparison creates the materialism, which creates a lot of the financial challenges that we have. So let me share this with you. A Psalm of David. This is from Psalms 23, verse 1 through 6. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runneth, my cup overflows. Amen. So this week is about you have no competition, and the joy of knowing the power of God's acceptance of each of us just as we are. There is no one to compare yourself to, really, because there is no one like you. There's only one of you. Like there was this rap song, I don't know, I think it was Jay-Z, but he was just saying like, there's 1,000 of them, there's only one of me. But he's wrong. There's only one of them too. We're all unique, but we get the point that we should see ourselves uniquely, and the perfection that God put uniquely, that drop of you that God put in you, there's only you. So this discussion is connected to my interest in behavioral finance, because I study behavior. I can't not, like, we can see like certain things in our lives that create certain behavior, certain stresses that create certain behavior. And there's a connection between our health and our behavior and our credit scores. You know, it's in there. So I want to continue to study why we do what we do, so that I can serve you better, but also to help you develop a better understanding of yourself. So, because our thoughts heavily impact our financial decisions. And there was an article in Psychology Today that says some psychologists believe that our desire to compare ourselves to others is a drive. It says a drive that is almost as powerful as thirst or hunger. They write on to say, while comparisons can be informative, they're also almost always discouraging, because someone's always going to end up on the bottom. I guess that's why we compare ourselves. Like we see it in TV shows where they have like all those Maury shows and court shows, and people watch them all the time. And I think it's because they're obsessed with feeling like that person's problem or that person's life is worse than mine. You know, or that viewers just find comfort in just saying, well, at least my life's not that bad. And then on the flip side, on social media, you know, we have like everybody presenting all of the perfections of their life, the great house, the great car, the great spouse, the great hair, that everything, you know, is just perfect for them. But we're not realizing that, you know, life is not perfect and no one truly has a perfect life. So in Exodus chapter 20, verse 17, it says, you shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife or his male servant or his female servant or his ox or his donkey or anything that is your neighbor's. That right there, Exodus chapter 20, verse 17 was enough for us to say, like, I'm not going to allow myself to sit there and worry about how can they afford that big house? How can they afford that big car? How can they, you know, I remember when we were growing up and my mom would say, oh, so-and-so, you know, he cooks all the time. You never cook. And then my dad would go, well, hey, he likes to cook. I don't cook. I was like, and some other things. But I just remember, like, she would always compare him to someone else's husband. And and I'm not even lying. Like, when my father passed, one of the couples where she compared them to all the time, and my parents were blessed with 58 years together. When he passed, one of those couples that she talked about all the time, how good he was, they were broken up. And I said, like, you never know. You cannot covet another person's house, another person's lifestyle. Like, he probably got tired of cooking. It was like, I'm not. She should help me. Look, that was funny. Like, we would go over there, and like, and the man would be like struggling in the kitchen, and she would be upstairs, and she'd be like, I'm tired. You know, and he had a lot of children, and she only had one child. So I think, you know, and all of the children were together, that she was like, well, I'm not going to help, you know, because that's your issue. So that, you know, that you never know. But I'm only saying this, I was just a little kid. I don't know. But I just know that you cannot covet. I can't judge. I have no idea. So I'm just saying that it was amazing that how many times I had to hear them talk about how great this guy is and how bad you are. And my parents ended up being the couple that lasted the longest. So you never know. And in 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 12, not that we dare, this is what the word says, not that we dare to classify or compare ourselves with some of those who are commending themselves. But when they measure themselves by one another and compare themselves with one another, they are without understanding. And I read that to say, you don't know the whole story. You never know how someone does or what they do or what the picture really is or what's in the background. You don't know. You don't know if that's a drop top. You don't know if they drove through some neighborhood and just took a picture and you're assuming that is because, see, the word says you are without understanding. So here are a few reasons, a few more reasons. Elizabeth said, drop the mic. That's true. Look, I'm sorry. Look, I get all of y'all responses like later. I'll be like in a zone and I forget. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I appreciate you. That's so good. That's my daughter's middle name, Elizabeth. Indeed. So let's look at a few of the reasons and why we should avoid comparisons and biblical empowerment to go along with it. So comparison stops progress. When we begin to limit ourselves based on the achievement of others around us, we become limited by the world. Like, it's really amazing when you think about it, but that is because God can do way more than anything that we see someone else doing. So if you decide that all you got to do is do better than this man, this person, then you've already limited yourself. That's what they say. You're without understanding. So in Romans chapter 12, verse 2, it says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. Do not be conformed to this world. Wow. But be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Don't limit ourselves by comparing ourselves to them, but instead, let's become focused on what is God's will for my life. And that's going to be good and acceptable. And it's enough. There's a gospel song. I love it. It's enough. Fantasia can sing that song. So a second point is that there's things about us that we can't change. I'm Black, I'm 5'8". You know, I can't change that. Like, you can put chemicals in and change textures of hair and everything, colors and stuff. But at the core of it, what God created, you can't change. God created us physically, perfectly. And there's things that we cannot change. In Philippians chapter 2, verse 3, do nothing from rivalry or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than ourselves. It's humbling. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 15, do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a worker who has no need to be ashamed, rightly handling the word of truth. And in Jude chapter 1, verse 19, it says, it is these who cause divisions, worldly people devoid of the spirit. That, you know, well, we got this obsession of light skin, dark skin, tall people, short people. We have created all of these divisions instead of realizing and accepting that what will happen when they slammed Doug Wilder against the wall going through an airport. And I said to myself, they didn't know that he was the first Black governor, you know, in the United States of America. All they saw was he's a Black man. That's what it comes down to it. Don King said it in another way, using some cuss words, but it is what it is. That, you know, the craziness in this world has caused these divisions. And because they have no relationship with God, they can't see past the exterior. They can't stop the judgment, which is sad, and it's their weakness, and it's their problem. A third point, don't compare your life to others. Know that no life is perfect. And in Romans chapter 12, verse 3, it says, for by the grace given to me, I say to everyone among you not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think with sober judgment, each according to the measure of faith that God has assigned. So that also means we shouldn't be thinking too highly, but we also shouldn't be thinking too lowly, you know, and it's just be in acceptance and gracious and thankful for all that we have. You know, so sometimes, you know, that I am statement. I was at an event yesterday, and this lady was like, I really need to talk to you. You know, my finances are horrible. I have done a horrible job. You know, I mean, like, who is she comparing herself to? And how can you say something so horrible like that about yourself? Like, that is crazy. You don't even have the right to speak of yourself. And so that I am statement is so powerful. I was like, please don't say that. She said, well, you know, I've done a great job. I'm a good entrepreneur. You know, I have these things, you know, well, let's focus on, you know, what's going right. But I really am thankful that I was able to say, and when I first started thinking about how powerful our I am statements, our behavioral finance statements are, you know, I was afraid to stop people. And then when I realized how powerful it is, how much I've changed my life from addressing those statements, how it's impacted, my daughter by me saying, like, don't say that about yourself, like to reverse our I ams as early in life as possible. I can't help but not help people through that and try to say it in the most gracious way possible, that they're worthy of better words than that, because our words create our reality. In 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 7, for who sees anything different in you? What do you have that you did not receive? Let me say that again. For who sees anything different in you? What do you have that you did not receive? If then you received it, why do you boast as if you did not receive it? Like, how can, this is how I interpret that. Like, how can I brag about all that is right, knowing that I received it? Like, I was given this. Everything that I have, I was given by God. It is God's grace and mercy that we share this time together. So it's like, how can you boast and brag about stuff like, look at mine, look at that, I got that, I saved this, I was all of that, it's like, no, that you can't even boast about it, because you know that you didn't do anything to really create it. It was God's will that allowed this to happen. Everything we really should just speak, like, if it's God's will, then if it's God's will, I will. If it's God's will, and realize that. And then I think also it cuts out the fear, which is my fourth point. As I was saying about, I used to be afraid to like help as much as I was. I used to be afraid to do this on a Sunday morning, because I get a lot of issue about that. You can talk about anything. I can be materialistic. You can everything. But when you talk about how much you love God and you bring it into your work, people will try to shut you down, but we have to be fearless in that. Comparing yourself to others creates fear, because if I compare myself to others, then they will say, well, entrepreneurs, we got to stay away from God. Entrepreneurs, you got so-and-so, like, there's nobody else doing that. Why would you, registered investment advisory firm, have a book that focuses on our community? So if I were only comparing myself to what other people do, then you will be fearful. Comparing yourself to others creates fears. You feel you must go along because they have the system, or the world may have the resources that you need. But we have to know that God provides all that we need. Our righteous grind gives us that confidence, knowing that we don't have to compromise our truth. So in Psalms 118, verse 6, the Lord is on my side, I will not fear. What can man do to me? Psalms 118, verse 6, the Lord is on my side, I will not fear. What can man do to me? Right? James 1, verse 17. James chapter 1, verse 17. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow due to change. He is the same. God is the same. We can depend on God being in a good mood every day. What changes is us. So we're sad, we're comparing ourselves, you're feeling like you underachieved, that's yours. Because God is the same. He's blessing us the same way every day. We got to receive it every day. And my fifth point is comparisons steal your joy. In Psalms chapter 73, verses 2 through 6, but as for me, my feet had almost stumbled. My steps had nearly slipped. For I was envious of the arrogant when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For they have no pangs until death. Their bodies are fat and sleek. They are not in trouble as others are. they are not stricken like the rest of mankind. Therefore, pride is their necklace. Violence covers them as a garment. Comparisons can steal your joy. They're saying, even though I know that they're arrogant, they were envious of the arrogant because they saw the prosperity of the wicked. And they're that until the end of time. But until we realize the joy, the peace in living our life based on God's will, then you will be in that spot of actually, like people say, like, how did that billionaire, hang themselves? Or how did that billionaire jump off a bridge, or the millionaire, or these billionaires that are in the news? I can't judge them because I never compare myself to them. There's someone out there. I can't judge them because you have to really find freedom in knowing no matter what, we are exactly where we're supposed to be at this particular time. But to compare ourselves, I think that we've seen enough to see that having money doesn't create a righteous life. Like, we can see all that R. Kelly is going through, and maybe even a lot of it could be associated with the money that was flooding through his life at a particular time. So we have to see that there are going to be challenges, but I still feel like no matter what hell somebody is going through, I still feel this need to pray for them to get through. Because I know that everything that we get, everything that we see, there's always something that we're not told. There's always more to the story. So it's like, I can't, based on news and social media, develop some like, my life is better than theirs. I would never do that. There's things that you may be accused of stuff that you never did. And I've seen it. Good people go through stuff and they never did. So don't even get into the habit of comparing yourself. Don't even put value in social acceptance of you, so you'll never have to be let down. I've seen grown men be heartbroken by doing everything right, and then the job switch up on them and make up the craziest story on them, and grown women too. And it will break your heart if we allow our joy to come from them, to come from the world. It can't. We cannot. So let's look at some comparison power. When can it work for us? We can say that wow, look how enthusiastic that person is. I love that word enthusiasm because it comes from putting God into everything that you do. But they don't realize that. They go, oh, they're so enthusiastic, when they don't even realize that they're saying that they can see God in that. Put enthusiasm into everything that we do. Allow comparisons to inspire us to grow. Like, isn't that beautiful? Not that, oh, that's perfect, but isn't that beautiful to see, the love, when people post anniversaries and they go, oh, look at us. We've been married like 35 years. Like, that doesn't like send me into this frenzy. Like, oh my goodness, I'll never be married at 35 years unless I get married today and I live, like, it's like, you can't. But it's to inspire us to grow and know to get one day of peace and love is enough. Know that you can do your best. Like, all we need to be inspired when you compare ourselves to other people is that, wow, they're doing their best. At least I hope they are. There's some people that we see and they're very popular and they could do better. But let's make sure that we're doing our best. Create connections When you see someone that you inspire, that inspires you, create connections. That's why I have like the free membership of AfroEconomics, because I'm hoping that my entrepreneurship, my information, while I'm here on this planet, I want to create connections, and I don't want economics to stop us from being connected. And I want to give more. Give more. When we want to compete, let's compete with giving more. That's right, Elizabeth Fearless. Kay, what are you struggling with the older that you get? This makes me feel terrible. Let's talk about that, Kay. But that definitely, that's right. What did somebody say? Wait a minute. We're gonna finish up. Oh, yes, I am tall. I'm not that tall, but I'm tall. I'm tall enough. I've been tall for a long time. Look, and I get mad when somebody's taller than me. Somebody, especially as a female, she walks up and she's taller than me. I like move over. Like I gotta work through that. Look, JP, they're all taller girls, but there was a time where I didn't appreciate being tall. Now I love being tall. So let's put enthusiasm into everything that we do. Let's create connections, and let's give more than we receive. Let's give more to this world than we take from it. And we can do that. No matter how we're programmed, let's compete to give more. Compete with yourself, especially financially and professionally. Let's become organized and know where we are this year, right now, so that next year, this time, you'll know in comparison to yourself how much better you're doing. And those of you who have been with me over this last year, you can do that. Look, we've accomplished this. Look, I've accomplished that. That's cool. That's cool. And know that it's nowhere compared to what you're starting and the opportunities that you're opening up for generations to come from the discipline and the insight and the understanding and the strong relationship with God that you are developing and bringing into your life. So definitely make sure you let me know if I can help you in any way. I'm here for you. That is the soul of your money. Meditate on those things, my friend. I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Pray for me as I pray for you. Okay, no more struggling. It's over now. You're going to be doing a lot better with your life. Let's just focus. This will be on YouTube. Watch it again. Meditate on those verses that we talked about. I think we all struggle. Like the psychologist said, we all struggle with comparisons. Yes, indeed. I love y'all. You have a blessed day too, Elizabeth. Things ain't what they used to be, but they're better. They're going to get better. Hi, Valron. Have a great day, y'all. Thank you. So glad you logged in, Mike Rob. I appreciate y'all so much. Have a great day, Maurice. I think you were number one, Maurice. Thank you. I can't wait to get y'all on camera one of these Sundays. What's going on?